The warning. The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for thousands of years. They controlled trade, decided which species could rise and which would remain weak. To them, the galaxy was simple. There were rulers and there were the ruled. Then, they found humans. It happened when a deep space probe from Earth entered the neutral zone. The Council's sensors picked it up. At first, they thought it was just space junk. But when they studied its signal, they realized something shocking. This small primitive probe had been sent by an unknown species. The Council acted quickly. They sent their best scouts to investigate. What they found was both fascinating and disappointing. Humans were small, fragile creatures compared to the great empires of the galaxy. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were outdated. Their homeworld, Earth, was full of pollution and war. The Council had seen many species like this before, young, ambitious, and completely powerless. The High Chancellor of the Council made the decision. They are not ready for the galaxy. A formal warning was sent to Earth. You are entering a dangerous galaxy. Stay in your solar system. You are not ready. The Council expected humanity to obey. Most young species did. They feared the power of the elder races. But humans were different. The Council's first mistake. The warning was received by the leaders of Earth. The nations of humanity gathered, discussing what to do. Some were afraid. Others wanted to listen. But a few leaders stood up and said, "Who are they to tell us what we can or cannot do?" The warning had the opposite effect of what the Council expected. Instead of stopping, humanity pushed forward. They built faster ships. They improved their weapons. They developed advanced AI to help them navigate deep space. Within 50 years, humans had colonized Mars, built cities in the asteroid belt, and even sent their first warships beyond their solar system. The Council watched, confused. Why didn't they stop? Most species, when given a warning, listened. They feared the Council's power, but humans did not know fear. They only knew how to survive. The Council laughs. The Galactic Council held a secret meeting. The elder races, the ones who had ruled for centuries, discussed the problem. A few members were worried. They are growing too fast. What if they become a threat? One ambassador asked. The High Chancellor waved his hand. They are no threat. Another council member laughed. They are insects. They fight among themselves. They are weak. The Council agreed. Humans would never rise to power. They were too small, too divided, too insignificant. Let them play with their little spaceships. Let them dream of being part of the galaxy. The Council had seen it before. Young species rose, dreamed big, and then faded into nothing. They believed humans would do the same. They were wrong. The First Contact War. For a while, things were quiet. The Council ignored humanity, and humans kept expanding. Then, something unexpected happened. A brutal warrior race called the Dralox entered human space. The Dralox were mercenaries, conquerors. They destroyed weak species and sold their planets to the highest bidder. They saw humans as easy prey. The Dralox fleet arrived at the edges of human space. They sent a single message: surrender or be destroyed. The Council watched, expecting humanity to fall within days. But the response from Earth was different from what they expected. Humanity sent a message back: come and take it. And with those 4 words, history changed forever. A battle no one expected. The Dralox were powerful. Their fleet had conquered dozens of worlds. Their ships were massive, their soldiers fierce. But humans fought differently. Instead of meeting the Dralox in open battle, human warships used hit-and-run tactics. They hacked enemy communications, blinding their ships. They set traps, luring the Dralox into asteroid fields. For every human ship destroyed, 2 Dralox ships fell. The Dralox, once confident of victory, started to panic. The war lasted months instead of days. And then, the unthinkable happened. The Dralox retreated. They had never lost before. The Council's shock. The Council gathered again. This time, they were afraid. One council member whispered, "How did they survive?" Another replied, "They should not have won. This is impossible." The High Chancellor stood up, looking at the battle reports. The numbers did not lie. Humans had done the impossible. They had defeated a superior enemy in their first real war. That day, the Council realized something. They had made a terrible mistake. They had underestimated humans. And now, it was too late to stop them. The first strike. The Dralox invasion was supposed to be a swift and brutal victory. The Galactic Council had seen it happen before. Weak civilizations crumbled when faced with superior forces. The Dralox were warriors, conquerors, and executioners. They did not negotiate. They did not show mercy. Their fleet entered human space like a storm, a wall of metal and fire ready to consume another young species. Their warlord, General Varkun, watched from the bridge of his flagship, expecting the usual response: surrender, fear, desperation. Instead, the humans sent 4 words back: "Come and take it." And with that, the war began. The battle for Sol. The Dralox did not hesitate. They launched their invasion force directly toward Earth's defensive fleet. Their ships were bigger, their weapons stronger. They had won countless wars with sheer brute force. But this time, they were walking into a trap. Humanity had been watching. They had studied Dralox battle strategies, their movement patterns, their weaknesses, and in that moment, humanity proved they were not like other species. They were hunters. As the Dralox fleet entered the asteroid belt near Mars, the first human attack began. A trap was sprung. A wave of hidden human drones, small, agile, and deadly, swarmed out of the asteroid belt, targeting the Dralox engines and communication systems. The Dralox ships, built for direct combat, were not designed to fight an enemy they couldn't see. The first 10 Dralox warships were disabled before they could even return fire. For the first time in their history, the Dralox realized they were not the predators in this war. Adaptation versus strength. The Dralox had always relied on overwhelming strength, but strength meant nothing against an enemy that refused to fight their way. Humans did not engage in open combat. They struck from the shadows, vanished into debris fields, and attacked from unexpected angles. They jammed communications, causing chaos among the Dralox command. General Varkun watched in frustration. Where are they? Why won't they fight us directly? He did not understand. Humans were not playing by the rules, because humans had never followed the rules of war. The turning point. As the battle raged on, the Dralox finally pushed forward, breaking through the asteroid belt. They were bruised, but not broken. They still outnumbered humanity's fleet 3-1. Their warships moved toward Earth, ready to bombard its surface. But humanity had one last trick. In orbit around Earth, hidden among civilian satellites, an experimental weapon activated. Project Eclipse. A pulse of electromagnetic energy surged through space, frying the Dralox targeting systems. Their massive warships, dependent on high-tech guidance, suddenly went blind. And then the real attack began. Humanity's fastest ships, small, heavily armed corvettes, launched from behind the moon, attacking the disabled warships with surgical precision. The Dralox fleet, once an unstoppable force, was now scattered and confused. For the first time in centuries, they were losing. The retreat. General Varkun could not believe it. A species the Galactic Council had dismissed as weak had just forced the Dralox into retreat. His officers begged for orders, but there was nothing left to do. The Dralox fleet was broken. They had lost over half their warships. They had never lost before. Varkun clenched his fists. This was not over. With a final order, the Dralox fleet turned and fled. The battle for Sol was over, and humanity had won. The galaxy watches. The news of the battle spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, species who had lived in fear of the Drollocs whispered among themselves. The humans survived. They won. How? The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Their greatest warriors had been humiliated. The council members were shaken. This was not supposed to happen. A decision was made in secret. If humans could defeat the Drollocs, they are too dangerous. They must be stopped before it's too late. But what they did not know, humanity had already intercepted their message. And they were ready. The Council's fear. The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for centuries. They had seen empires rise and fall, had conquered and crushed countless civilizations. They believed they understood war. Then came the humans. And in a single battle, everything changed. The Council's emergency meeting. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so silent. Representatives from 100 species sat in their high-backed chairs, watching the battle reports. They replayed the footage over and over. The Drollocs should have won. They had the bigger fleet. They had the stronger weapons. They had never lost a war before. And yet, humanity had forced them to retreat. For the first time in history, the Galactic Council was afraid. The High Chancellor, a cold and calculating Virak named Selvos, narrowed his eyes at the screen. He turned to his advisors. How did this happen? One of the analysts, a pale-skinned diplomat from the Vegran species, swallowed nervously before speaking. We underestimated them. Selvos slammed his fist on the table. That is not an answer. That is an excuse. The council members shifted uncomfortably. They had all mocked humanity. They had ignored the warnings. Now their arrogance had cost them. The council's fear grows. Selvos turned to the gathered leaders. The humans should not have won. But they did. Why? A reptilian warlord from the Zegran Empire growled. They are pests. They used deception, ambushes, cowardly tactics. If the Drollocs had fought them in open combat, a deep voice interrupted him. They would have lost even faster. All eyes turned toward Varlok, an elder scientist from the Tireth Dominion. He was one of the oldest members of the council, known for his deep knowledge of military history. Selvos frowned. Explain. Varlok leaned forward, his glowing red eyes locked onto the Chancellor. We were wrong about humans. We thought they were weak because they are small. We thought they were predictable because they are young. He pointed at the battle footage, where human warships moved like hunters, attacking weak points, adapting in real time. They are not like other species. They are something new. The room fell silent. For the first time in centuries, the council felt something they had never felt before. Doubt. A secret decision. The council members whispered among themselves. If humans could defeat the Drollocs, what else could they do? Would they become the next great conquerors? Would they overthrow the balance of power? Selvos closed his eyes, calculating. He had spent his life managing threats, ensuring the council remained at the top. Now, for the first time, he saw a new future. A future where humans ruled the stars. He would not let that happen. Selvos opened his eyes and spoke a single command. We must destroy them before they become unstoppable. The council fell into dead silence. Then, one by one, the leaders nodded. A secret alliance was formed. The council would not let humanity rise. They would wipe them out. Completely. The council's betrayal. Selvos turned to his military officers. We will give the Drollocs the technology they need to crush humanity. A few council members hesitated. But if we arm the Drollocs with our weapons, what stops them from turning on us? Selvos smiled coldly. We will deal with them later. Right now, the humans must be erased. A message was sent to the Drollocs' homeworld. Your failure has cost us all. We will supply you with weapons, with ships, with intelligence. This time, you will not fail. The Drollocs' warlords eagerly accepted. They had been humiliated once. They would not allow it to happen again. Plans were set in motion. The combined fleets of the Council and the Drollocs would attack Earth itself. They would end this threat before it could grow any further. Humanity would be nothing but dust. The fatal mistake. What the Council did not know was that humans were listening. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, a secret human intelligence base intercepted the transmission. A young officer named Captain Elias Carter listened as the message played. His hands trembled as he realized what it meant. The Council had never wanted peace. They wanted genocide. Carter wasted no time. The message was sent directly to Earth's leaders. Within hours, humanity knew the truth. The war was not over. It was just beginning. The Council's secret plan. The Galactic Council believed they were the masters of the galaxy, rulers of fate, architects of power. But for the first time in centuries, they felt fear. Fear of humanity. The Council had seen war before. They had crushed rebellions, silenced uprisings, and wiped out entire civilizations that dared to challenge them. Yet, this time was different. Humanity was not just surviving. They were winning. And that could not be allowed. A plan forged in shadows. The High Chancellor, Selvos, gathered the most powerful leaders in the galaxy. This was not an official council meeting. There were no records, no broadcasts, no debates. This was a war council. The humans have already proven they are dangerous. We made the mistake of warning them before. We will not make that mistake again. The room was silent. Then, an insectoid ambassador from the Sithari hive spoke. "What are you suggesting?" Selvos leaned forward. "We erase them, not just their fleet, not just their colonies, their entire race." Murmurs spread through the room. Even the most war-hardened leaders hesitated. Genocide was not unheard of in the galaxy, but to exterminate an entire species. Selvos remained calm. "If we do not act now, we will face something far worse than the Drollocs. The humans will not stop. They will grow. They will adapt. And then one day, they will rule. Is that what you want?" A long silence. Then, one by one, the leaders nodded. The decision was made. The human race would be wiped from existence. The Drollocs' revenge. Selvos turned to his war commanders. "The Drollocs want revenge. We will give them the means to take it." A secret transmission was sent to the Drollocs warlords. "Your failure was unacceptable, but we will give you the power to correct it." The message included schematics for advanced warships, planet-killing weapons, and tactical intelligence on humanity's weaknesses. The Drollocs, humiliated by their defeat, eagerly accepted. "We will burn Earth to ash." In deep space, hidden from the eyes of the galaxy, the largest invasion fleet ever assembled was being built. A fleet designed for one purpose: total annihilation. Humanity's worst nightmare. The people of Earth did not know what was coming. For weeks, life continued as normal. Factories built new ships, soldiers trained, and scientists worked on new technology. Humanity was preparing for a long war. But they did not expect the scale of destruction that was about to come. Then the message arrived. A top-secret listening post on Mars intercepted a high-priority transmission from the Council to the Drollocs. A young officer, Lieutenant Sarah Keene, played the recording. The words made her blood turn cold. "Proceed with total extermination. Do not stop until every human is dead." Keene's hand shook as she forwarded the message to Earth's leaders. Humanity had been hoping for peace. The Council had been planning their extinction. The awakening of humanity. The message was received in a classified war room beneath New Geneva, the capital of Earth's defense force. The most powerful leaders in human history sat in silence as the recording played. Some clenched their fists. Others closed their eyes, but there was no panic. Only cold, focused rage. The President of Earth, Elias Carter, stood up. His voice was calm but carried the weight of 1,000 generations. "They want to erase us." He looked around the room. "Then we have only one option. He turned to Admiral Rains, the commander of the Earth Defense Fleet. "We strike first." Operation Stormbreaker. For the first time in human history, every nation, every faction, every colony stood as one. A decision was made. Humanity would not wait to be hunted down. They would take the fight to the heart of the enemy. In the largest military operation ever attempted by their species, the fleets of Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies came together under one banner. Their mission: destroy the Drollox fleet before it can attack Earth. Take the war directly to the Galactic Council's doorstep. For centuries, the Council had ruled unchallenged. They had thought no one would ever defy them. But now, for the first time, they were about to learn the truth. The first strike. As the Council finalized their plans for human extinction, something unexpected happened. Their deep space sensors detected movement. At first, they thought it was a simple patrol fleet, but the readings were too large. Then the alarms began to sound. A fleet was approaching the Drollox homeworld. A human fleet. Not defensive ships. Not scouts. An armada. Earth had made its decision. And the first strike belonged to humanity. Humanity strikes first. The Galactic Council had made a fatal mistake. They thought humans would wait to die. They believed Earth would beg for mercy. But humanity had never known surrender. And now, for the first time in galactic history, the hunters were about to become the hunted. The plan that changed everything. Deep beneath the icy surface of Titan, Saturn's largest moon, humanity's greatest minds gathered in a classified military installation known only as Fort Blackstar. The message from Mars had changed everything. The Council wasn't just planning to defeat humanity, they were planning to erase them. The war was no longer about survival. It was about revenge. Admiral Rains, leader of the Earth Defense Fleet, stood before a holographic display of enemy space. The Drollox fleet is assembling near their homeworld. The Council has given them everything: new warships, new weapons, and a simple order: destroy Earth. The officers around him remained silent. They had expected war, but now they understood. This was genocide. Rains turned to General Cade, commander of the Mars Tactical Forces. "How long before their fleet is combat ready?" Cade exhaled sharply. "Less than a month. Once they move, there will be nothing left of Earth but ashes." A heavy silence filled the room. Operation Stormbreaker begins. For centuries, the Galactic Council had dictated the rules of war. But humanity had never followed rules. In a matter of days, the entire human military mobilized. Every warship, every fighter, every last soldier. The plan was simple but insanely bold. Attack the Drollox homeworld before their fleet could launch. "Hit them where it hurts," Rain said. "Hit them so hard they never get back up." A preemptive strike on an enemy homeworld was unheard of. To the Council, this was madness. To humanity, this was justice. The fleet that shook the galaxy. The Council's spies had always described humans as reckless, stubborn, and unpredictable. But nothing could have prepared them for what came next. Just as the Drollox fleet was preparing for its attack on Earth, their deep space sensors detected movement. A massive fleet was approaching. Not scouts, not diplomats, not refugees begging for mercy. An armada. Earth's warships were smaller than Council battleships, but they were faster, smarter, and deadlier. Instead of moving in a straight line, they broke into hundreds of strike teams, attacking from every direction at once. The first target, the Drollox fleet yards. As the Drollox scrambled to react, humanity's stealth bombers emerged from warp space and launched orbital bombardments on their shipyards. In seconds, half the Drollox fleet was in flames. The Council watched in horror as their greatest warriors, their chosen enforcers, were torn apart before they could even fight. The sky burns. General Varkun, leader of the Drollox forces, stared at the destruction from the bridge of his command ship. This was not how it was supposed to go. Humans were supposed to be weak. Humans were supposed to be prey. Instead, they had turned the skies into fire. How? Varquin whispered. But there was no time for questions. Human warships were everywhere. Using hit-and-run tactics, humanity's fleet crippled the Drolok's war effort in a matter of hours. The mighty Drolok's dreadnoughts, once feared across the galaxy, found themselves hunted like animals. For every human ship destroyed, 2 Drolok ships fell. And then, just as quickly as they had arrived, the humans vanished. The Council's worst nightmare. The Council had been prepared for an invasion of Earth. They had not been prepared for an invasion of their allies. As news of the Drolok's defeat spread, panic rippled through the highest levels of the Galactic Council. The humans have gone too far. They weren't supposed to be capable of this. They have defied the balance of power. But there was one voice, deep in the shadows, that spoke the loudest. The High Chancellor Selvos, the mastermind behind the war, stood alone in his chamber. His hands trembled as he watched the battle reports. For the first time, he truly understood what humanity was. Not prey, not victims, not an inferior species. They were something new, something unstoppable. And now, the Council's greatest mistake was coming for them. Humanity's final message. As the Council gathered to decide their next move, a single transmission was broadcast across the stars. A message from Earth. You came for us. You tried to end us. Now we come for you. Prepare yourselves. It was not a declaration of war. It was a promise. And as the stars burned above the Drolok's homeworld, the galaxy finally realized humanity was no longer fighting for survival. They were fighting to win. The turning point. The galaxy had always belonged to the Galactic Council. For centuries, they had been the architects of fate, the silent rulers behind every war and every peace treaty. They decided who could rise. They decided who would fall. They controlled everything. But now, something had changed. The humans, the species they had dismissed as weak, as insignificant, had done the impossible. They had shattered the Drolok's empire in a single strike. They had crippled the Council's war machine before the war had even begun. And now, they were coming for the Council itself. Panic in the High Chamber. The High Chancellor Selvos sat at the head of the massive Council chamber. His claws gripped the edge of the table as he listened to the latest reports. His advisors spoke in hushed, fearful tones. The Drolok's fleet is gone. Their shipyards are in ruins. Human warships have been spotted in deep Council space. Selvos could not believe it. This was supposed to be a cleansing, a final solution to the human problem. Instead, the problem had become unstoppable. Then President Elias Carter spoke. His voice was steady, his eyes cold. We don't wait. We don't defend. We don't hide. He turned to his commanders. We strike first. The great war machine of the Council, built over 1,000 years, had never been challenged. Now it was breaking apart. Selvos slammed his fist against the table, his voice shaking with rage. How? How did this happen? But no one had an answer. Because the answer was something no one wanted to say out loud. The humans were smarter. The humans were faster. The humans were better. The betrayal. Across the galaxy, species who had once bowed to the Council now whispered among themselves. For centuries, they had lived under fear and oppression. They had watched their worlds be stripped of resources, their people forced into servitude, their futures dictated by beings who thought themselves gods. But now, there was a choice. The Council was cracking. And humanity. Humanity had done what no one else had dared to do. They had fought back, and won. Across the outer colonies of the Council, entire planets rose up in rebellion. Ships defected. Governments collapsed. Alliances shattered. One by one, species that had once feared the Council declared independence, and many of them swore allegiance to humanity. The Council cannot protect us. The Council is weak. The future belongs to the humans. The greatest empire in the galaxy was beginning to crumble, and humanity had lit the fire. The last defense. The Council was left with one final option. If they could not win with strategy, if they could not win with alliances, then they would win with sheer destruction. Selvos turned to his last surviving generals. Prepare the Omega Fleet. The room fell silent. The Omega Fleet was a last resort, a collection of the most powerful warships ever built, weapons of mass destruction capable of erasing entire planets. They had only been used once before, against a species that had dared to challenge the Council, a species that no longer existed. Selvos bared his fangs. We will not lose to these creatures. We will burn their worlds. We will make them suffer. It was madness, but it was the only option they had left. The final battle begins. On the bridge of Earth's flagship, the UNS Destiny, Admiral Raines stood before a holographic display. He could see the Omega Fleet assembling. It was the largest enemy force ever gathered in galactic history. Even with all of humanity's victories, even with all of their strategy, the numbers were still against them. President Carter's voice came over the command channel. Is there any chance we win this fight? Raines looked at the display, then at the faces of his officers. They all knew the truth. They were outnumbered. They were outgunned. They were facing an armada built to destroy civilizations. And yet, Raines smiled. No, we don't win this fight. We end it. He turned to his fleet commanders. Prepare all forces. We take the battle to them. Humanity's final war had begun. But this time, it would not end the way the Council expected. The end of an era. The galaxy had never seen a battle like this before. Not in 1,000 years of war. Not in the rise and fall of empires. Not in the long reign of the Galactic Council. But today, history would change. Because today, humanity was not fighting for survival. They were fighting to win. The Omega Fleet moves. The Omega Fleet, the last hope of the Galactic Council, emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Hundreds of planet-cracking dreadnoughts, each carrying enough firepower to erase a world. At the center of it all, the Council's flagship, a vessel so massive it blotted out the stars. On its bridge, High Chancellor Selvos watched the battlefield unfold. He had one simple order for his commanders. Destroy them. Humanity's final stand. On the bridge of the UNS Destiny, Admiral Raines stood tall. He stared at the enemy fleet, a force built to exterminate his species. His officers waited for his command. One of them, Lieutenant Vale, swallowed hard. Admiral, what are your orders? Raines exhaled, his gaze never leaving the enemy fleet. And then he smiled. We go straight through them. Gasps echoed across the command deck. Sir, that's suicide. Raines turned, his voice steady. No, that's victory. The first strike. Before the Omega Fleet could fully deploy, humanity struck first. Using advanced AI warfare, they hacked into the Council's fleet coordination systems, blinding their warships for precious seconds. And that was all they needed. Human warships, smaller and faster, weaved through the chaos, targeting weak points with deadly precision. In the first 10 minutes, humanity had already crippled 20% of the Omega Fleet. Selvos watched in fury. They fight like insects. Crush them. But the problem was simple. Humans weren't fighting like insects. Humans were fighting like apex predators. The battle turns. One by one, Council warships fell. Massive dreadnoughts, designed for planetary bombardment, were too slow, too heavy to react to the human hit-and-run tactics. They were being outmaneuvered at every turn. And then came the final blow. The UNS Ragnarok, Earth's most powerful battleship, led a suicide charge straight into the heart of the Council fleet. It rammed into Selvos' flagship, activating a chain of detonations that ripped through the enemy command structure. Their flagship is burning. The Council is exposed. Selvos stumbled through the smoke-filled bridge of his ship. Panic filled his eyes. For centuries, the Council had ruled the galaxy. And in minutes, that rule was collapsing. The final transmission. As the Council fleet crumbled, humanity broadcasted a message across the stars. A message to every species that had ever suffered under the Council's rule. The war is over. The Council is finished. The galaxy is free. Across 1,000 worlds, species who had lived in fear now stood in defiance. Some planets declared independence. Others joined the humans. Some simply watched in awe. The age of the Galactic Council was over. Selvo's last stand. High Chancellor Selvos, once the most powerful being in the galaxy, fled his dying flagship in an escape pod. His mind raced with fury. I will rebuild. I will rise again. But as his pod drifted into space, he saw something that made his blood run cold. A single human warship locked onto him. A transmission came through. It was Admiral Rains. His voice was calm. You underestimated us. That was your first mistake. And your last. A single plasma blast turned the pod to dust. The High Chancellor of the Galactic Council was no more. The new order. With the Council gone, the galaxies stood at a crossroads. Some feared humanity would replace the Council, ruling with an iron fist. But instead, humanity did something no one expected. They offered peace. They helped rebuild. They formed alliances. They refused to rule alone. For the first time in history, the galaxy was not controlled by fear, but by unity. And humanity had earned its place among the stars. The final words. Years later, in the ruins of the old Council capital, a historian recorded the last words of the fallen empire. Words whispered in fear, in regret. Words that would be remembered forever. The greatest mistake in galactic history was underestimating humans. And with that, the story of the old era ended, and the story of humanity's future began.